Well, meanwhile, I just got a text from my wife of hail in our area in
Oh,
Alaska.
no.
What a difference from just a couple of hours when it was glorious
I know,
outside.
and I was saying it was ideal fishing weather. Well, I guess I was wrong, Greg. We got rain in the forecast.
Turns on a dime.
Yeah, we had that little line that develops, that continues to develop, and yeah, we've had some small hail reports, not expecting any type of severe weather with it, but it is a line that's coming right across that cold front that kind of sags south overnight, and that was responsible for that activity. It's just going to be a little bit of activity that'll push east here fairly quickly, and then we're going to see more activity potentially developing south of the area. A very narrow line could develop towards Decorah, maybe getting into Crawford County, maybe as much as Vernon County later in the night. If you're further north, you're really not going to see much because you're behind that cold front and that north wind, so more stable atmosphere going on. But overall temperatures still very mild, just getting barely into the 50s by 11 p.m. And then overnight, you'll see this activity kind of develop and expand a little bit and push further north. So I think we'll see rain return basically to the I-90 corridor and further north as we get past midnight, as this cold front kind of sits to the south, but then it begins to push a little bit further north as the next system begins to approach. This activity could impact the morning commute for some. Just depends on where it kind of sits right now. Right now it's just north of I-90, but we may see additional development continue to the morning commute. So you might see wet conditions. Not expecting really too much in the way of thunderstorms. Probably more shower activity as you see here by 8 a.m. Most of the activity is south of Eau Claire. Further north will probably be dry throughout the morning. Eventually all this will expand further north, so we'll see some scattered showers throughout the early afternoon hour, and then it's going to probably get more widespread going into late afternoon and the evening hours as the system begins to lift north. You see the winds begin to turn around to the east as the low begins to approach Iowa here, and then as we go into Thursday night, that's when activity will probably become more widespread, especially going late past midnight as that activity to the west from Iowa begins to push up. So expect really steady rain from probably about midnight through about Friday morning as all this activity pushes across the area. Now the good news is once we get past about Friday 8 to 9 a.m. we'll start pushing all this precipitation east of the area. So by early afternoon we won't see any more rainfall, but the cloud cover will linger. Decreasing clouds, but it will be cooler with this north wind behind it and breezy at times on Friday. It'll definitely be the coolest day probably of the 7 to 8 day period once we get through that. Now precipitation, it really depends if you get a lot of thunderstorms, but through Friday noon there is going to be a swath of someone that gets 1 to 1.5 inches. Right now it's pretty much near La Crosse, just towards Red Wing, kind of swath southwest to northeast. This could shift a little bit. Everyone's going to get something out of this, a quarter to maybe a half, but there'll be some areas that could push the 1 inch to maybe 1.5 inches. So another good soaking rain. Temperatures tomorrow cooler, more cloud cover overall, not as much sun. If you want the sun, warmer temperatures, probably closer to the Wisconsin River, they could get 70s, otherwise mainly 60s for most areas. And then Friday, definitely the cooler day, barely getting into the low 50s further north, mid 50s further south. It's about 10 degrees below average almost for some areas, along with that north-northeast wind too. So that will be the coolest day. The showers will probably end around noon and more clearing skies going into Friday. Now Saturday, pretty seasonable temperatures, 60s, really pleasant with that north wind, just a light wind. Overall, great day really. And then Sunday, even warmer, probably potentially getting close to 70s, 70s maybe just to our southwest as a big system begins to approach the area. All this means we are going to get fairly warm next week. Unfortunately, that does come with a severe threat going on, and right now it didn't show that, but we do have a severe threat going into Monday, along with an opportunity to maybe get close to 80 before the cold front comes through, probably Monday night at some time frame, and then we cool back down to where we should be by the middle of next week. So there will be a few storms this evening. It'll be a hit and miss, so just keep an eye on your app and the radar on your app to see where that will form, and then otherwise it's going to still be active through Someone want to say February.
Friday. Yeah, we ain't going back to February.
You know, I would like to, but that's another thing. But the weekend so far still looks good.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.